Hi, this is Mrs. Clark, and this is my video on slope from a graph. So how can I look at a graph with 2 points at least and determine the slope, write down the ratio? Also, how can I use the slope formula to help us find the slope? So it can be both from a graph and just from the coordinates themselves. So first step we have to do is find 2 points on your line. So if you look at my graphs, I don't even have any lines yet, so I'm going to graph these 2 points and create a line, and then we're going to follow the rest of the steps. So let me graph these 2 lines quickly. This is my x and this is my y. So this is my first point. I'm going to call it my x1 and my y1. 1 signifies the first point. This is my second point. I'm going to call it x2 and y2. So I'm going to graph this one first, -2, -3. So I'm going to start at the origin, to the left 2, down 3, and make my point. Then I'm going to do 5, 7. So I'm going to go from the origin, 5 to the right, and 7 up. And make my second point. Then I'm going to actually connect these as well. Use a different color here. I'm going to connect these 2 to make a line. And if I didn't have 2 points darkened in like that for me, I would want to find 2 points on my line where these little boxes, the point is like right in the center of the corners of the boxes. So see how these points are perfectly in the corners of the boxes? That's what I want, because those are going to be whole numbers. Alright, so first thing I do is find 2 points on my line, so here they are, and then start at the left point and count the number of boxes up or down. So if I start at the left point, that's this one, and I count, I'm going to have to go up because it's an increasing line, and then I'm going to have to go to the right to get to my second point. So the number of boxes I'm going to move up, this is my right point, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to be moving up 10 units. And then to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right. So I counted how many I went up, 10, and then I went to the right, 7. Write your ratio as change in y over change in x equals up or down number first over right or left number. I also want to make a mention to myself, if I go up, it's a positive thing. If I go down, it's a negative thing. When I go to the right, it's going to be positive. If for any chance I ever find myself going to the left, I want to remember that's a negative thing, but I really want to try to remember to always go to the right, and that way I only have to remember up is positive, down is negative. But just in case, we have both of those directions here as well. Okay, so if I want to write the ratio here, change in y over change in x equals, it says the up or down number goes first, so I had an up number over right number. So those are both positive numbers. Up is positive and right is positive. So it's a positive 10 over a positive 7. And there's my ratio. If I could reduce this, I would reduce it further, but 10 over 7 is the lowest it can go. And so that's the slope of this line. 10 over 7. A rise of 10, a run of 7. That's a rise of 10 over a run of 7. I can also find this same ratio using just these 2 coordinates. I'm going to show you how to do that now. We can use what is called the slope formula, which we're going to write that up here. It is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this formula allows us to find the rise and the run just by using the y values of the coordinates and the x values of the coordinates. So let's do that now. If I look at my coordinates, I labeled them at the beginning, x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to use those numbers and kind of fill them in these spots here. So underneath here, I'm going to write change in y over change in x equals, and I've got to do y2 minus y1. So that means I'm going to have to do this y first, which is 7, minus -3. So I'm going to have to write the whole thing down. 7, which is our y2, subtract from the formula here, it says to subtract, And then our y1 is also a negative, so it's going to get a negative 3. So notice there's two subtraction signs here. That's my rise, so that's my numerator. And then for the run, I've got to do x2 minus x1. So my x2 is 5 minus negative 2. And so this also gets a double negative here. Okay. Now, I know that if I do 7 minus negative 3, this double negative turns into a positive, so it's really 7 plus 3. And this 5 minus negative 2 also turns into a positive. It's 5 plus 3. Now, if I didn't remember that, I could use my calculator and just type in 7 minus negative 3, and it would also tell me that it's 10. So 7 plus 3 is 10. And 5 plus 2 is 7. So there's our same ratio, 10 over 7, that I got when I counted it from the graph. I want to make sure I remember that I cannot reduce this number. So I'm going to make a note of that here, because nothing goes into 10 and 7 other than 1. And so when that happens, I can't reduce it. That's just how it is. So my slope is equal to 10 over 7, and that is my final answer for slope for this problem. I do know that it is an increasing line. It's going up as I go from left to right, so it also has a positive slope, and that's a quick check that I can do. I can look at the line and see that it's increasing and know that I should have a positive slope. So when I look at my final answer here, and it is a positive 10 over 7, I know that I am correct. It's a quick visual for me to check just to make sure that I'm doing my work correctly. Okay, so let's do the same idea with the next problem. I'm going to graph these 2 points. I've got my x1 and my y1 in the first point, and my x2 and my y2 in the second point. My x is here and my y is here. I'm going to graph these 2 points. I've got negative 5, 8. So it's going to be here. And I've got 6, negative 3, so it's going to be here. And again, I'm going to connect them with a straight edge to draw my line. Okay. And let's count our slope using our graph. So again, first thing I do is find 2 points on the line. I already have those. Start at the left point, which is here, and my right point is here, and I'm going to count the number of boxes up or down. Well, I can't go up, I have to go down, so I'm going to go down till I get in line here, and then I'm going to go to the right. So I'm going to count how many boxes I went down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's 11, and it's going down, which is a bad thing, so it's a negative 11. And then to the right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 also. But going to the right is good, so positive 11. So I have down 11, which is negative, and to the right 11. So if I follow this down and right or up and right, I always remember this right number is going to be positive. It's only the up or down I have to think about as negative. So to write my slope, my change in y over change in x, my rate of change, all of those things mean the same thing. I had to go down and then right. So my down number goes on top, and I went down 11, which is down, falling down is a bad thing, so it's negative 11. And I went to the right, positive 11. And if I want to do that with my points, I can show how I can get the same thing following that slope formula that we wrote down for change in y over change in x up here. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So on the top, y2 is negative 3 minus y1, which is 8. So negative 3 minus 8 over 6 minus negative 5. 6 minus negative 5. So negative 3 minus 8 is negative 11. And 6 minus negative 5 is 6 plus 5, which is also 11, positive this time. And so, if you notice, our two slopes match. However, in this case, Both of them are the same number, except one is positive and one is negative. So that means I can reduce this a little bit further because 11 goes into both of these numbers. So I can divide, make this in a different color here, divide by 11 on the top and divide by 11 on the bottom to reduce my fraction. Negative 11 divided by 11 is negative 1. Positive 11 divided by 11 is positive 1. I can do the same thing up here, which gives me the same slope, negative 1 over positive 1. So in this case, it could be reduced I'll move out of the way in a second. We divided the top and bottom by 11. So we divided by 11 on the top and the bottom. So our slope, our final answer for our slope here, negative 1 over 1, or actually anytime I have a number over 1, it's a whole number, so this is really a slope of just negative 1. So the only time I can do that, and I can take my slope and write it as just a whole number and not a fraction, is whenever it's something over 1. So I might write it as negative 1 over 1, you might write it as negative 1, or opposite. Either one is the same, they're the same answer. A lot of times the simpler version is just this whole number here, negative 1. A lot of students like to write it this way. I would accept either one as the correct answer. And just to do a quick visual check to see that we are correct here to have this negative slope, if I look at this line, it is a decreasing line. So we know if we have a decreasing line, that's going to be what type of slope? A negative slope. And since I got a negative answer, that gives me the quick check just to know that I was correct here. If you ever have to describe a line, you can use that decreasing to describe this type of line, increasing to describe that kind of line. All right, go ahead and put this into your notebook and glue it in, and then you can start your practice. Thanks for watching.